Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to our Rainbow Readers Read Aloud series. In today's Read Aloud, we will read Unit 24's passage entitled The Caribbean. Here is a lovely picture of what the Caribbean looked like if you did not know. Now, let's begin. The Caribbean is described as a delicate necklace of pearls stretching from Cuba in the north to Trinidad and Tobago in the south and down to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao on the coast of Venezuela. Each island in this chain has its unique physical features, its rare beauty and charm, and its natural resources. One is amazed at the variety of differences that exist within this small area of land and sea. One can enjoy the untouched rainforests of Dominica and St. Lucia and can be startled at the dry, brittle acacia trees in St. Martin and Aruba. Barbados and Antigua are flatter islands. Their original forests have been replaced by rolling sugarcane plantations. The visitor to the Caribbean enjoys the beauty and splendor of our beaches and coral reefs. They marvel at our Pitch Lake in Trinidad and the sulfur springs and volcanoes in the Lesser Antilles. The fragrant breezes of the trade winds welcome those who visit the Caribbean. It was the trade winds that drove Columbus's vessels to this part of the New World. Caribbean islands are divided into two main groups. The Greater Antilles comprises Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, also known as Haiti and San Domingo, and Puerto Rico. All the other islands in the chain belong to the Lesser Antilles. Those islands that feel the full force of the trade winds are called the Windward Islands. Those sheltered from the trade winds are called the Leeward Islands. Many stories have been written about the Amerindians who lived in the islands before the arrival of Columbus. The two chief tribes were the Caribs and Arawaks, who lived in fishing and agricultural communities. Many of the Amerindians were wiped out when the Europeans conquered the islands. Wars against the natives led to the death of the majority of them. Those who resisted enslavement were put to death. Today, a small number of Carib descendants exist in some of the islands. After the Amerindian population dwindled, the European masters turned to Africa for labor. This was the beginning of slavery in the region. Different European masters governed the islands. Among them were the English, French, Spanish, Dutch, and Danish, who fought fiercely for ownership of the islands. Battleships were constantly on the seas during this period. The entire Caribbean suffered a long period of uneasiness. Any morning, one could have awakened to find himself under a new government. Sugar was the staple crop in the islands. The slave trade, which lasted for nearly 400 years, provided cheap labor. Slaves worked under inhumane conditions under the blazing tropical sun. The wealth gained from sugar was sent to the plantation owners in Europe. Slaves were housed in floorless huts. Their food supply was scant. They worked 12 hours a day and 6 days a week. Slave masters flogged men and women, the old and the young. Slave rebellions took place in many of the islands, including Jamaica. Religious groups and individuals worked together to fight for the abolition of slavery. After a long time, They were able to convince those in power that slavery was inhumane and should be abolished. When slavery was abolished in 1834, slaves in the Caribbean became free men and women. There was now a need for laborers to work on the sugarcane plantations. Plantation owners turned to India, China, and the islands of the East Indies for workers. Many immigrants from these countries came to the Caribbean, hoping for a better way of life. They too felt the strong hands of the colonial masters, as they too were treated in a very inhumane manner. Many races of people now inhabit the Caribbean islands. Out of an exciting and painful history, a nation of strength and courage has emerged. Caribbean people are proud of their culture and their achievements.